is a positive behavior. It will make your dog less aggressive to other dogs and less likely to get into fights. Above, social play is natural for puppies, but beware that this can progress into aggressive fighting as dogs age and one becomes more dominant. In this situation, you will notice that the dogs aren't taking it in turns to be hunter like they do in social play. To prevent your dog from being under-socialized and aggressive toward other dogs lands more likely to get injured in a fight, make sure they have pleasant experiences with other dogs as soon as P0 sizeable. Proper training is necessary in order to create good behavior, and proper reinforcement of their reining on a daily basis is important. Dogs. This means that, instead of just letting your unsocialized dog loose into a park, hoping for the best, you should walk them around the outside of the fence and actively expose your dog to different social activities and do not be tempted to rush. Letting them see other dogs interact correctly from a distance. Theory and introduce one new actively or dick a week, but no more. Using a leash and muzzle might help at first, as does remaining zero in the periphery so that your dog is an O0 servo rather than interacting with Otner. Note. If you think your dog has gone into shock, follow the steps on page 119. Treating shock page 119, abscesses page 131. Cleaning and dressing minor wounds page 080.
Come get this food. Who hungry?
Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna keep doing that with you. Just as you walk this back. Sorry? So you walk this back. You see
So
something.
we got here, people.
You got dogs running. Ooh. I don't like your stomach. Look at it.
Yeah.
But
If you follow these steps to control the blood loss. Dash dash. Apply pressure to TNE area with a clean 1. 6. If the wound is on an extremity, elevate the wounded area to restrict blood flow.
put a blood on. Yeah.
Peace.
The American Staffordshire Terrier. Officially recognized the pit bull in 1898, it was not until Pelle Eries of the 1930s achieved national attention for the American Staffordshire Terrier is the American of the United Kennel Club's Pit Bull Terrier. Although the UKC Kennel Club's equivalent American Pit. The UKC Pit Bull from the Our Gang comedy. Breed in 1935 had the American Kennel Club entered. Pete is the first dual-registered UKC and AKC Pit Rill. The breed was registered by the name of Stafford Shire Terrier, and that name was adjusted to American Staffordshire Terrier on January 1, 1972. Prior to acceptance of the breed in 1935, the dogs were one and the same and their histories are identical. No additional bloodlines were added to either breed, and even today there are dual-registered American Pit Bull Terriers and American Staffordshire Terriers. At first, then, it might seem that these dogs are identical even by today's standards. Many American Pit Bull Terrier fanciers would adamantly disagree with this claim, however, and it is specify that no staff blood has been added to the to see advertisements for pit bull puppies that I reason for the brief distinction between the pit of physical appearance alone while the UK puppies lines Septan American and Staffordshire is that since the Avenue Canier the breed in 1935 AKC oriented Peo have consistent TLY bred the dog to conform to stand 147. Body the withers hind, back level and straight. The loins broad, muscular, and a root slightly arched atop. The chest broad and deep, and ribs moderately sprung. The belly well drawn up. Tail set on high, thick at root and tapering to the end, reaching the hocks. Forequarters and hindquarters the shoulders moderately sloping. The forearms straight, moderately long and strong. The pasterns slightly inclining and robust. Muscles of hind legs very developed. The joints of stifle and hock moderately angled, and vigorous. Feet tightly closed. The coat short, hard and dense. Color, solid color of red as eye, thin bone. Extreme overshot or undershot. Minor faults, snipey muzzle. Slight overshot or undershot. The Tosa is a magnificent animal. I am sure it would eventually become popular in the United States if it were properly introduced to those who prefer large dogs. Although the breed standard calls for OOG that is a minimum height of 60.5 centimeters, almost 24. 125. Your best choice is a Companion and Home Guardian. The Fighting Do 0 grams. TIEW of everything underscore that has been said thus far. About the fighting breeds, the question that will mind is, why would anyone want to keep a mind is, why would anyone want to keep a fighting endear any mem of the fighting breeds to its doubtedly foe? At the forefront, owner, it is helpful to be clear about which qualities are most desirable in any canine pet. Some dog owners or would-be owners are attracted to a particular breed purely because they happen to love the way that breed looks. Of all the good reasons to buy a dog like an Irish Setter or a Golden Retriever, the appearance of the dog is last on the list. The person who darts off to the nearest pet store in order to purchase an Irish Setter puppy simply because he saw a beautiful Irish Setter loping across the park is a person who should not be buying a dog. A person who runs to a pet store to buy a Borzoi because he likes the charisma it added to the guy in a vodka advertisement is also the wrong person to be buying a dog. Before buying a dog of any breed, the intelligent dog enthusiast should spend a good deal of time considering the qualities that will be an asset to the dog's owner and compare this mental list of qualities to another mental list of 61. The general background of dogfighting. Historical reconstruction can often be very difficult, and the reconstruction of historical subjects lacking in research sources can be even more difficult. The history of dogfighting is certainly one that has not been very well documented. Fortunately, though, enough rather widely scattered information does survive in the literature for us to develop a sketchy history. To fully understand the history of dogfighting, we must consider the activity in its broadest context. Organized dog-to-dog combat events are only part of the story. The great interest that our ancestors had in staging fights between dogs and other animals forms another important part. Actually, these latter events are the ones most commonly recorded in the literature, so our consideration of the history of dogfighting must include staged fights between dogs and a variety of other animals as well as those staged events in which a dog was matched against another dog. Bulls were the fighting dog's most common non-canine opponents, to the point that the term bulldog has been applied to particular types of dogs that have been accepted historically as being particularly adept at fighting bulls. In our consideration of the Bulldog 8-day, we too often mistakenly think of only one very specific type of purebred as bear. Fact, the term bulldog was used much more loosely. Adred as being the bulldog. In the past, and if we are to understand bulldog histor much more loosely rs tand bulldog history. 126. GE 159. DS page 80. 21. We must be perfectly clear about our understanding of the term. The meaning of the word bulldog. Historically, the term bulldog has had two very distinct meanings. The first is largely a descriptive meaning, dealing with the appearance of a given dog according to the descriptive definition of the term. A bulldog is a particular type of dog developed in Western Europe during the latter half of the 16th and the earlier half of the 17th centuries for purposes of baiting bulls. This dog has traditionally been thought to have evolved via the process of selective breeding, essentially from Mastiff stock. Typical of the vast body of literature lending support to this theory are the comments offered by Harry Glover in his V0OK titled A Standard Guide to Purebred Dogs, published in 1977. Glover tells us that the Bulldog originated from Mastiff stock and says, and there is no doubt that by continuous selective breeding for shorter and shorter legs the Bulldog was produced. Be that as it may, once developed to a level at which it satisfied the bullfighters of the time, the breed that became known by the name of Bulldog, the term obviously having been derived from the breed's functional roots, was kept, more or less, as a purebred. The descriptive definition of the term Bulldog, then, continues to refer to the appearance of dogs of this purebred line, whether or not any particular member of the breed is used in bullbaiting. The second, and by far the older, of the two meanings of the term Bulldog is a functional title. Functionally, the term Bulldog refers to any dog capable of being used as an effective bullfighter regardless of one's bloodlines. In examining the literature for early references to bulldogs, it is the functional use of the term that will be of interest to us. Such functional tissues are not uncommon in the world of dogs, and many queries. Although Edward discusses the strength and aggression of all three varieties of Elant, he specifies that both the Elant Butriers and the Elant of the butcheries make particularly good bullfighters. Each is also discussed as being particularly useful as a hunter of wild boar. Because of its unusual physical type, the Elant is of special interest to a discussion of the history of dogfighting. The short face of the dog was the breed's most outstanding physical characteristic. Yet when we search through the information on early Western purebreds, we notice that in spite of the breed's very characteristic appearance, there seems to have been no similarly distinctive Western breed from which the Eland might have been developed. Of the appearance of the Eland gentle, Edward says that they should be made and shaped as a greyhound, even of all things save of the head, the which should be great and short. The other varieties of Eland Edward describes as being of a heavier hound-type body but otherwise the same. In our search for the forerunner of the Eland, the history of the development of the dogs of China becomes of interest to us. It is in the literature of China that we find documentation regarding a breed of short-faced, hound-type dog used in the hunt. As early as 600 BC. The Chinese Book of Odes told of two related hound breeds, known as the Shan and the Shaiho, that differed only in the shape of the head. The Shan was a long-mouthed dog and the Shaiho was short-mouthed. Special carriages were used to transport these dogs to the place of the hunt in order to preserve their energy before they were to be set upon the game. In the early part of the 14th century, Marco Polo, his discussion of the many wonders of China, told of the hunting dogs found there. He described them as being the largest and fiercest dogs that can be met with. 26. Bullfighters. Each is also discussed as being particularly useful as a hunter of wild boar. Because of its unusual bicycle white, the Eland is of special interest to a discussion of the history of dogfighting, The short face of the dog was the breed's most outstanding physical characteristic. Yet when we searched through the information on early Western purebreds, we noticed that in spite of the breed's bird characteristic appearance, there seemed